What's up, everybody? It's Jacob Soboroff for NPR Sunday Soapbox, coming to you from behind the scenes at the Personal Democracy Forum in New York City. We're in our mini NPR studio, which is actually a dressing room, a green room here at Jazz at Lincoln Center. And I'm sitting here with some pretty awesome folks that are involved in how technology is changing politics. I'm going to point the camera on them. They'll all tell you who they are, and then we'll have a quick chat. So here we go.
Matt Stoller, I write for a site called Open Left.
Here's Davar.
Hey, Sunday Soapbox.
Ariana Huffington Post.
I'm Lee Brenner with MySpace Impact.
And we should just say hi to Andy Carvin, who's sitting right here.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
Let's just open it up to everybody. What is, Ariana, maybe I'll ask you first. What is being here? Why are you here? And why is this so important nowadays?
Well, I've been coming to PDF from the first PDF, back before there was no Huffington Post. And I love Miha Sifri. He and I worked together in 2000 when we put on the shadow conventions to address issues that the two political parties and the media were not addressing, like growing inequalities, the failed war on drugs, the corruption in politics through money. And so it's great to see that through our very different paths, have kind of converged to this point of looking at the way technology is helping us change the way we cover politics and the way the old media are adjusting to the new media. As I said in my speech today, there are dangers for new media. We are just as susceptible to the temptations that turned old media, or at least so many of journalists in old media, into stenographers to power. And I think there's a lot of good stuff happening in old media, a lot of breaking stories, which we in new media often stay on top of, as happened with the Pentagon military analyst story, which was broken by the New York Times. But Matt Stoller actually led an effort among many bloggers to stay on the story and not let it die on the front page of the New York Times, as so many stories die. So I don't see it as either or. I don't see it as the death of old media. I don't see it as entirely new wine in new bottles, to follow the theme of my session. I see it as a lot of good vintage wine also being poured into these bottles. And the vintage wine for me is the pursuit of truth. That has always been the heart of good journalism, the pursuit of truth, no matter what, without any kind of favor. And we proved that when we posted a story that could have hurt the Obama campaign even more, which was reported by one of our citizen journalists, Mayhill Fowler, during a fundraiser in San Francisco, which turned out to be Obama's Bittergate, as it's now known.
Matt, you want to talk a little bit more about that? I mean, is that why you're here too?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working in politics and technology through the blogging side since 2003 and I've learned a tremendous amount from people like Micha and from Ariana's amazing work. I'm relatively new to politics, and so I'm still learning a lot. But it seems to me that we're at an inflection point. I work on getting liberal Democrats elected, particularly in primary challenges. And it seems like we're at an inflection point right before you see, we're running a lot of primaries now, and we're losing most of them. So the people who are coming into power right now are conservative Democrats. And so we're looking at a time when there's a dramatic expectation for change in this country, and the technology is enabling that. Technology is just one facet of culture. And then going into 2009 and 2010, you're going to have a lot of these essentially conservative Democrats controlling the politics of our country. And it's going to be a chaotic time because they're not going to satisfy anybody on either the left or the right. And so we're in a mode, particularly in the progressive movement, which is where I'm sort of sitting there, of learning, of trying to run, find our new leaders, figure out how to run much lower cost campaigns, figuring out how to talk more systemically to primary voters and to general election voters using low cost means like the internet, but also costs that involve grouping. Unlike direct mail or broadcast, the internet has a social context. And so going into 2009, 2010, which I think are going to be a pretty rough period for this country, we're trying to understand a little bit more systematically how you take some of the things that Senator Obama is doing and Senator Clinton did at the end of her campaign and move that into the body politic at large.
Lee, what is it about an event like this, and not just Sunday Soapbox, that gets Ariana and Matt and you sitting together in a room and here at Jazz Lincoln Center, and then how is it playing out on MySpace?
Well, I think it's fascinating that you're finally seeing candidates and campaigns utilizing the tools that Americans are already using. And when to see the figure of 25% of the American population is active on MySpace, I mean, that's an enormous figure, and all these other social networks, and they're spending their days and they're spending their time there, and to bring politics and bring that conversation into that realm is really, I think, what everyone in that room, everyone is trying to do, is to continue the conversation and bring it a lot closer to the people that are affected most by politics. And I think that's why, so many of these people show up and come, and it's why we're here and we're a part of it and trying to just continue the conversation and bring the conversation that is offline, online, and then bring it back to, affect change, ideally.
I know you're all going to run, but maybe I'll do one more just as we go around. Technology is changing politics. How is technology going to change public radio? It's an interesting question that we were talking about. Just standing out there thinking about, look at the movement in politics. How is this going to trickle into something like public radio?
Well, you know more about it than I do, but from the outside looking in, I think public radio will continue online. So it used to be that you had the flagship NPR shows, and then that was it, right? Now, of course, it's ongoing. It could continue 24/7. The conversation never stops. So you have your NPR show, and then the conversation moves online. We see that with radio, we see that with TV. Then you take something and you turn it into a podcast. It no longer has to be appointment radio. I've been stunned. I've been doing a show on public radio for, I don't know, ever since I was on the right. That's how long ago. I think it's like 13, 14 years ago. It's called Left, Right, and Center. I started on the right. And and now it's just amazing the number of people I run into in Vancouver, in London, and they say, I listen to you on Left, Right, and Center. I still am stunned because it was only in Santa Monica and in LA, and then we got onto other stations, but still it was relatively limited compared to the absolutely global reach of what's happening online. And so you're beneficiaries of that just as much as we are in online media, and just as much as anybody who is willing to take advantage of it.
How can NPR benefit, or how can public radio in general benefit from something like the citizen journalism movement?
Well, I think, so I actually did some public radio in 2004 called The Blogging of the President. And one of the things that public radio can do is leverage its community, because a lot of what this new media is about is community. And public radio has an incredible community. It's not in people who want to participate, but who can't because just the limits. You can only have a certain number of call-in callers, but you can have an infinite number of participants online. And so getting a new culture of hosts who are going onto the internet during the shows and bringing out comments and participating in those conversations, I think it works. But also taking conversations that have been online and bring them into the show, and then helping spur conversations that continue in different communities online is going to be very powerful. So essentially, public radio will become medium agnostic, and it'll become all about just the conversations instead of the medium itself. I think that, I don't know, you guys would know a lot more about this than I would.
And Andy's an expert on this stuff too, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's essentially what we're trying to do. Actually, is recognizing that the conversation goes wherever it's going to go, and if you relegate it solely to what's taking place on air, then you're missing a huge part of the public who wants to dive in and participate in civic discourse. And so,
also, public radio hosts tend to think that they want to start the conversation. So you start from, what's the show going to be about, as opposed to what conversations are happening that I'm going to just pick up and be a part of. And that's a very different way of thinking about how you do your craft. And as public radio hosts or artists who've emerged in a certain time period. There's got to be a generational shift or some new tools and tactics that are used, but that I think can be very effective.
I can close with Lee. I mean, you come from a traditional news background. What do you make of what's going on? And
No, and I think you're seeing both the old media, both in television and radio, seeing the power of what is happening online and using their old tools and their news collecting tools and bringing it to the online space. And that's why you see so many of the old media partnering with new media companies and trying to emulate and utilize those tools. And they realize, hopefully they're starting to realize the importance of it.
well, do you have something else? Everybody's good?
Yeah?
Well, thanks to everybody for stopping into the NPR, our mini studio here at the Personal Democracy Forum. Matt Stoller, Ariana Huffington, Lee Brenner, Andy Carvin, thanks for coming in. We'll talk to you guys all later.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks a
much.
lot.
Bye.